All right, we're going to check out a few pages of Paul Thomson's book on the topic of dragon fruit hybrids. So he felt that dragon fruit hybrids had a very promising future that would improve the size, color, and flavor of the fruits. And he also warns that it's going to take a few years for the seedlings to grow, 2 to 4 years for them to be evaluated. And you'll want to weed out the ones that are inferior and just keep the best of the seedlings that you are experimenting with. Now you can graft them to cut this time down to about 18 months. Also, he wants you to realize that they will need pollen from another source. In his experience, that the hybrids needed a cross-pollination. So his first hybrid plants that he received were from George Emmerich Jr., and they were hybrids of Hylocereus undatus and Hylocereus polyrhizis. I'm working on finding out more about this man. He died in 2017, but I believe this is the source of George's white and George's red dragon fruit. I'm working on that right now. So another interesting thing is that these hybrid seedlings that were crossed between Hylocereus undatus and Hylocereus polyrhizis, they actually were like their parents. They were very frost sensitive and they died. So Paul's first experience with hybrid seedlings is that he crossed Nitzel, which is named after Jim Nitzel, a California rare fruit grower, and Rixford. Now, Nitzel is Hylocereus undatus, a white flesh fruit, and Rixford was sort of an unknown red flesh fruit. He thought they both tasted great, and you could see that he had 8 seedlings, and 1 was eaten by rabbits. And out of those 7 that remained, he felt that 3 were great to excellent fruit, and 2 were outstanding. So we'll talk more about that soon. In addition, he talks about that Nitzel and Rixford were both very frost sensitive. However, the seedlings with their hybrid were more vigorous and could withstand more cold, which was a great observation. In other words, the seedlings did not display the characteristics of their parents. So they're actually more vigorous. So he did notice that all of his seedlings need to be cross-pollinated, as you can see, and that temperature and humidity were factors for fruit set. Now, be warned that seedlings 7S and 8 are crosses between different hybrids. So it's Hooten and Rixford. Both were red-fleshed, and this is where Sugar Dragon became a seedling out of these 2 crosses. And it's actually universal pollinator, so it's so interesting that some are sterile, and then this cross of 2 red flesh resulted in a universal pollinator. So really cool, interesting things. So now let's talk about the most important part of this book, in my opinion, is his seedlings for his hybrids. So as you can see, they started between 1998 and 2000, and 1S is physical graffiti. I think it's a phenomenal fruit, and you can see what he said about that, and he gave it to California rare fruit growers, where we have it and love it now. 2S is going to be Cosmic Charlie. So you can see it's a deep red flesh, good to excellent flavor, nice sized fruit. So that's Cosmic Charlie. Delight is 3S, his hybrid, and this is the first one he named, and I believe it was his favorite variety, and he thought that this had wonderful commercial potential. It's a pink flesh, but he felt that it could compete with the yellow-skinned varieties. It also grows pretty quick, and it is a very vigorous variety, in my opinion. However, I have not had the fruit yet, so I can't wait to have my Delight produce a fruit. All right, so for 4S, that is going to be a pale pink color, and he said it was more of a dwarf. And what's very interesting is that I can't find this variety. This is the one in my collection that I do not have of Paul Thomson's. So 4S, part of me was wondering, could this be Maria Rosa? I never found out much information about Maria Rosa, but that is unconfirmed. So if you know more about 4S or have a cutting, please hit me up in the comments. I'd like to know more about it. but I like how he describes it as a dwarf grower. All right, 5S is going to be Purple Haze. So this variety is Purple Haze, and these were all these names were renamed by Pine Island Nursery in Florida. So you could see that somehow they got a hold of these cuttings and they renamed them. So 5S is Purple Haze, excuse me. You can see how he says it's no improvement of the parent plants. 6S died from frost, and 7S died from frost as well. Remember, this was a different cross. And 8S is Sugar Dragon. The universal pollinator felt it had excellent flavor for 8S, as you could see. And again, this was a hybridized dragon fruit cross with Hooten and Rixford, which were both red-fleshed. Now the last one, 9S, is actually Dark Star. So Dark Star is a very, very vigorous grower. I like it a lot, and you can see the size of the fruit, which is great. Okay, so as he wraps it up here, you can see that the plants varied with time. And he just really felt that there was much more to learn. Look at that last sentence. We have much to learn about Hylocereus hybrids. So I'm excited to continue this work with dragon fruit. Okay, now don't forget 8S could also be Voodoo Child. There are some differences between that. I forgot to mention that. Sorry about that. But 8S is Sugar Dragon. Some people say it's Voodoo Child. This is 1S, Physical Graffiti. Now, with all these seedlings, they'll kind of be a lime green and twist and straighten up and turn darker green as they age. Now, in my experience, Physical Graffiti will take full sun in Southern California. It's a bit more sun hardy than the others, and it also gets a bit of ant damage or bug damage. So I need to spray neem oil and take better care of this, or use diatomaceous earth. Now, Paul described the fruit as dark pink and attractive with a red skin. Now, this is Cosmic Charlie, 2S. Now, in my experience, it was slower to grow, and I got this from Spicy Exotics in Louisiana. And the fruit, as Paul describes it, can be deep red to dark purple. Now, I just experienced this one as being a little bit slower to grow, although it's taking off here as it reaches over a year old. And I also gave it a part sun. So it seems like Cosmic Charlie prefers a little less Southern California sunlight. Okay, the beautiful 5S, Purple Haze. Now you can tell it has slightly longer spines than the other hybrids from Paul Thomson. You see it right there. And in addition, the fruit is magenta in color, the flesh, and Paul Thomson said it was no improvement in flavor from the parents. So he says it tastes great, but there was no improvement from the parents. Now this kept growing longer and longer, so I tipped it off with my fingertip to hopefully develop a canopy. So Purple Haze grows pretty quick, and I give it a bit of shade in Southern California. It seems to be not quite as sun tolerant as Sugar Dragon, S8, or 1S, Physical Graffiti. So this is Purple Haze, 5S. There's actually another part of 8S that we need to discuss, Sugar Dragon. So on the right here is Voodoo Child, which was an 8S renamed by Pine Island Nursery. I got this at Spicy Exotics. And on the left here, this is an 8S renamed by Linda Nickerson out of Elk Creek Dragon Fruit, which is now, she's retired, but she renamed it Sugar Dragon. So apparently there may or may not be some differences. You cannot tell the differences from the plant material, but it could be possible that this is a seedling of a Sugar Dragon that was self-pollinated. I'm not sure, but we do know that Sugar Dragon on the left is a universal pollinator, as it described, and Voodoo Child is described as self-fertile. So it'll be interesting to see in the future. I want to see, are there differences between these two? Is Sugar Dragon on the left the same thing as Voodoo Child on the right here? So I'm keeping them separated, and the growth looks oh so slightly different, in my opinion, on Voodoo Child. but time will tell. We need flowers, fruit, and the plant flesh to know more. And last but not least, I want to clarify something. I thought about how 4S could be Maria Rosa, but there's no way. I mean, look at the structure. This is such a different variety, and it's definitely not a dwarf like Paul Thomson describes. So 4S is still eluding me. If you have it or know about it, please hit us up in the comments and let us know more about it. So this is Sugar Dragon S8, one of Paul Thomson's seedlings, and this was crossed with Hooten and Rixford, the double red flesh varieties. Both were red flesh. So you can see it's created a beautiful olive skin. It will get a little bit yellow with a lot of sun and as it grows, but it's nothing to be concerned about. These things are really tough. It can be a little bit hard to root at times if they're mature cuttings, but they're really thick, really hardy. They're not too spiny. They get 1 to 3 of these smaller horn spines. It's not too bad compared to other varieties. And I've taken several cuttings from this plant as well. So you can see here's some newer growth. It'll be a little bit kind of yellow and green, but it will darken up quickly. It's topping the trellis here, doing great. So that's 8S Sugar Dragon, in my opinion, the most important one because it's a universal pollinator. All right, let me show you my other favorite seedling. All right, this is Paul Thomson's 9S, or Dark Star. Now, I have not gotten fruit from this plant. It's about a year old. You can see it's just doing really well. Scott has a Dark Star at his house too, and we both would agree that we both observed that this is just a very vigorous grower. It started growing early in the season in about April. So believe it or not, all these cuttings are new this season already, especially this one. So huge, super rad. This was last year. We observed it grow about 1 inch a day almost. So it's just such a really vigorous growing dragon fruit variety in my opinion. And what I really like about it is that it topped the trellis earlier this spring. This is all new growth from about, I'd say, April. And it's already shooting new growth off of that. It's gotten thick and it's ready to support more branches. So wow, Dark Star to me and Sugar Dragon are the 2 most vigorous growers in my experience so far. Let me go show you one more. And last but certainly not least, 3S Delight. So you can see it's a very vigorous grower, and I actually have 2 cuttings from 2 different sources. One is, believe it or not, directly from Paul Thomson. I found a dragon fruit grower who was friends with him, and I collected all but 4S. And then on the left here is a different source, Exotica Nursery, who also knew Paul Thomson. So you can see that this one was severely damaged. I just literally got a stick. It was like a trunk, must have had a rot. And you can see it in 1 year, just how much Delight has grown. So that's all one cutting there on the left. It's doing really great. We'll get a little bit of bug damage there on Delight. See it there? But it thickens up quickly and is very, very vigorous, as you could see. So this is topping the trellis, and this cutting, all these cuttings are about a year old. So Delight dragon fruit, this was Paul Thomson's favorite. He named it. So I will always enjoy that and respect that. All right, and there you go. Give us a like and a subscribe. We'll talk more about Paul Thomson's book in the future. I have much to share.